The Galactic Council chamber on Zorthus Prime was a marvel of alien engineering, a structure that defied physics as humans understood it. Suspended in an iridescent void, the chamber's floor seemed to stretch infinitely, yet it had no discernible walls. Concentric rings of hovering platforms encircled the central dais, where representatives from the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy sat in judgment. And today, Earth was on trial, not in the legal sense, but in a far more humiliating way. The Council had long resisted Earth's inclusion. Humanity was, at best, a primitive species. They had only recently mastered faster-than-light travel, and their technology was still reliant on crude fusion engines. Their planetary defenses were laughable compared to the quantum-shielded fortresses of the Zelnor, or the living biowalls of the Draconis cluster. Worse still, humans were emotional, unpredictable, and prone to war. But they had survived. Somehow, against logic, humanity had spread like wildfire. And the Council had no choice but to acknowledge them, if only to keep them in check. Seated at the lowest tier of the chamber, Earth's appointed ambassador, General Ethan Cole, sat with his jaw clenched, his hands clasped before him in rigid discipline. He was flanked by two aides, both young, both trying to mask their discomfort. Above them, alien dignitaries loomed, their expressions ranging from amused to outright scornful. Xyrax of the Draconis cluster, a reptilian warlord with scales the color of burnished copper, leaned forward, his slitted eyes gleaming. "Tell us, human," he hissed, his voice carrying a serpentine undertone. "Your species claims to possess warriors of great renown, yet you have never fought in a true galactic war. What do you know of battle?" Cole kept his face impassive. He had been a soldier long before he was a diplomat. He had seen combat in the Martian rebellions, fought in the ruins of Europa, and led troops against pirate incursions in the asteroid belt. And yet, compared to the horrors the Council had likely witnessed, wars between interstellar empires, civilizations burned to ash in a single strike, he knew Earth's history must seem insignificant. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. Another voice, smooth and arrogant, joined in. "You speak of tactics, of discipline," said Empress Kaether, ruler of the insectoid dynasties. Her body, an elegant fusion of chitin and gold, shimmered under the chamber's eerie light. "But your warriors are slow to evolve. They rely on outdated weapons, fragile armor. A single bio-dreadnought from my empire could annihilate 1,000 of your best soldiers in seconds." Laughter erupted among the dignitaries. Cole took a slow breath. He had expected this. Ever since humanity's induction, the Council had treated Earth like a petulant child, a species to be tolerated, but never truly respected. Then came the final insult. A representative from the Zelnor Confederacy, a being composed of shifting blue light, pulsated with what humans could only interpret as amusement. "Perhaps a test is in order," it said, its voice echoing in multiple tones. "A death gauntlet. Let the humans send their finest warriors against a foe of our choosing. Then we shall see if they are deserving of respect." Silence fell over the chamber. Cole's jaw tightened. He recognized the trap instantly. The death gauntlet was no mere test, it was a blood sport. The Council often used it as a way to humiliate lesser civilizations, to remind them of their inferiority. No one had ever passed it. The Pit-born were the usual opponents. Bioengineered monstrosities, taller than any human, faster than the eye could track. They had been bred to kill, to hunt. Even the best cybernetic soldiers in the galaxy struggled against them. Cole could refuse. It would be the politically safe move. But it would confirm everything the Council believed about Earth, that they were weak, unworthy, a species of talkers rather than fighters. A deep voice broke the silence. "We accept." The chamber turned its gaze to Cole. He had spoken without hesitation, his expression unreadable. Xyrax grinned, baring rows of serrated teeth. "Excellent. Send your best. We shall see what your warriors are truly made of." The decision was made. As Cole left the chamber, his aides rushed to his side. "Sir, are you sure about this?" one of them whispered urgently. "The Pit-born, no one has ever survived them." Cole didn't answer immediately. He stepped onto the shimmering transport pad that would take him back to his ship, gazing out at the endless expanse of stars beyond the chamber's walls. Finally, he exhaled and murmured, "Then we'll be the first." Somewhere, in the depths of Earth's most classified military base, a team of Navy SEALs was about to receive the most important mission in human history. The USS Valkyrie, Earth's most advanced stealth cruiser, cut through the void of space like a silent predator. Aboard it, in the dimly lit mission briefing room, Commander Jack Reynolds and his SEAL team sat in silence, listening as General Ethan Cole relayed their mission. The Galactic Council has challenged us, Cole said, his voice calm but edged with tension. They don't respect us. They think our warriors are weak. We're here to prove them wrong. A hologram flickered to life above the table, displaying a massive arena, dark metal walls, shifting terrain, and towering gates. This is the Gauntlet, Cole continued. It's a combat arena designed by the Council. Ever-changing landscapes, zero mercy. Your opponents are the Pitborn. A second hologram appeared, 7 feet of muscle, claws, and armored hide. The Pitborn resembled a nightmare fusion of a reptilian predator and an apex killer, with serrated teeth capable of ripping through steel. The Council has never seen real human warfare, Reynolds said, his voice cool and measured. They don't know what we're capable of. Cole smirked. That's exactly why you're here. Reynolds turned to his team, seasoned operators, each one a specialist in their field. There was Lieutenant Mason, their sniper, Chief Petty Officer Diaz, demolitions, Sergeant Cole, no relation to the General, hand-to-hand combat expert, and Novak, their tech specialist. Standard loadout. Mason asked, eyes locked on the hologram. Cole hesitated. That's the catch, he said. You're not going in with standard Earth weapons. The Council insisted that to level the playing field, you use only what is provided in the Gauntlet. The room fell silent. So, they're stripping us of our firepower, Diaz muttered. Typical. Reynolds wasn't surprised. This wasn't a fair fight, it was a spectacle. The Council didn't want to test humanity, they wanted to break it. But the SEALs didn't train for fairness. They trained to win. Arrival at the Gauntlet. The Valkyrie docked at the Zorthus Prime Station, where an armed escort of alien guards led the SEALs into the Gauntlet's preparation chamber. The room was sleek and sterile, filled with racks of unfamiliar weapons, alien rifles, plasma blades, energy grenades. A holographic announcer flickered to life, a featureless blue face with a metallic voice. Contestants, choose your weapons. Reynolds picked up an alien rifle, testing the weight. Light. Too light, he muttered. He pulled the trigger, a blast of blue energy shot out, scorching the wall. Low recoil, decent power, Novak noted. But no kinetic impact. Mason selected a sniper variant, calibrating the scope. Optics are weird. But it'll do. Diaz grabbed an alien grenade, twisting it in his palm. Hope this thing doesn't blow up in my hand. The team geared up, adapting to their unfamiliar tools with practiced efficiency. Then, the doors to the arena hissed open. The battle begins. The arena was massive, an open battlefield with shifting terrain. Jagged rocks emerged from the ground, pools of what looked like molten metal bubbled nearby, and in the distance, a storm of electric energy crackled above. On the far side, a massive gate rumbled open. The Pitborn stepped forward. 8 of them. Each one was bigger than any human, their claws gleaming, eyes burning with the hunger of a predator. They let out guttural roars, slamming their fists into their chests. The Council's hovering platforms loomed above, watching. Smug. Expectant. A voice boomed through the arena. Begin. The Pitborn charged. Move. Reynolds barked. The SEALs scattered, breaking formation to avoid the initial rush. The first Pitborn lunged at Reynolds, swiping with claws that could tear through reinforced steel. He rolled under the strike, bringing his alien rifle up, firing a shot into the creature's side. The energy blast struck home, but barely phased it. Armor's too thick. Mason called out, taking position on an outcropping. He lined up a shot and fired into a Pitborn's eye. The creature shrieked, staggering back. Headshots work. Mason confirmed. Diaz flanked left, tossing one of the alien grenades into the path of an oncoming Pitborn. The explosion sent the creature flying, its chest caved in from the blast. The team adapted fast, using their speed and tactics to their advantage. The Pitborn were powerful, but they were predictable, brutes, relying on strength rather than strategy. Reynolds drew a plasma blade from his hip, sidestepping a Pitborn's charge before slashing deep into its exposed neck. The alien gurgled, collapsing. Within minutes, 5 of the Pitborn were down. The Council's murmurs of amusement turned into whispers of disbelief. But then, something changed. The ground trembled. The air grew thick with static. From the far end of the arena, another gate opened. A second wave. But these weren't just Pitborn. They were different. Larger. Cybernetic implants gleamed on their bodies, mechanical enhancements fused with their flesh. Their eyes glowed an eerie red. Reynolds' stomach dropped. This wasn't part of the test, Novak whispered. The council was whispering among themselves. Even they hadn't expected this. Then, a third voice entered the comms. Not human. Not council. A deep, mechanical growl. You are not supposed to be here. The second wave of creatures moved, not charging mindlessly like the first, but tactically. One raised an arm. A built-in cannon deployed. It fired. The explosion tore through the ground, forcing the seals to dive for cover. New plan, Reynolds said, breathing hard. We survive. The unknown threat. From their observation platforms, the council members were no longer amused. Kaether turned to Zyrax. You authorized this? Zyrax narrowed his eyes. No. This is something else. Cole, watching from a restricted area, felt his gut twist. Someone had hijacked the test. But who? And more importantly, why? In the arena, the SEALs had no time for questions. The cybernetic enemies advanced, weapons primed. Reynolds tightened his grip on his plasma blade, eyes scanning for an escape. Then the voice returned, echoing through their comms. You were never meant to survive. Whoever was behind this, whatever force had altered the test, had just made one fatal mistake. They had underestimated the SEALs. Again. The cybernetic pit-born moved with terrifying precision. Unlike the first wave, which had relied on brute strength, these new enemies advanced strategically, their glowing red eyes scanning for weaknesses. They weren't just stronger, they were thinking. Reynolds crouched behind a jagged rock formation, sweat trickling down his temple. We need intel, now, he barked over the comms. Novak, anything? Novak had already pulled up his wrist display, running diagnostics on their surroundings. Something's off, he said. The council doesn't have this kind of tech. These things, they're running on an independent system. A realization struck Reynolds like a hammer. Then someone hijacked this test. From the council's floating platforms, confusion was turning into chaos. The alien dignitaries whispered among themselves, their expressions shifting from amusement to alarm. Even Empress Kaether, who had mocked Earth's warriors earlier, was now gripping the edges of her throne-like seat, mandibles twitching in concern. This wasn't part of the gauntlet, she murmured. General Cole, still stationed in the viewing chamber, slammed his fist onto the table. Who the hell authorized this? No one answered. And that's when the third voice returned. A deep, mechanical growl vibrated through the SEAL's comms. It was not human. Not council. You were never meant to survive. Reynolds' blood ran cold. This wasn't just a test gone wrong. It was an assassination attempt. But who was behind it? Betrayal from within. A flash of movement. The cybernetic pit-born raised their built-in cannons and fired in unison. The SEALs scattered as the ground exploded around them. Diaz barely dodged a plasma bolt that melted through the rock beside him. We can't fight them head-on, Mason called from his sniper perch. We need to break their coordination. Reynolds gritted his teeth. Then we take out their command link. Novak was already on it. His fingers flew over his forearm display. Got a signal trace. It's coming from, he stopped. His breath hitched. What? Reynolds demanded. Novak's voice was laced with disbelief. The signal is coming from inside the council's own security network. Reynolds' stomach dropped. That meant one thing. A traitor. And not just any traitor, someone powerful enough to manipulate the gauntlet systems without the council knowing. They wanted us dead, Diaz muttered. They wanted us wiped out in a fair test, so it wouldn't look like an execution. Not just us, Reynolds said darkly. The council too. He was starting to see the bigger picture. This wasn't about humiliating Earth. This was about destabilizing the council itself. If the pit-born had killed the SEALs, humanity would have been disgraced. But now that these cybernetic creatures were attacking without council authorization, it made the ruling body look weak. Someone was playing a bigger game. And Earth had just been the bait. The enemy unmasked. Up in the council chamber, alarms blared. Security officers rushed to action, scrambling to shut down whatever system had overridden the gauntlet. General Cole turned sharply to Kaether and Zyrax. Someone is inside your network, he growled. You need to shut it down, now. Zyrax's reptilian eyes flickered with uncertainty. Impossible. Our security is impenetrable. Cole leaned in. Then explain how an entire army of cybernetic pit-born just walked into your arena. Before anyone could respond, a new figure appeared in the center of the chamber, a hologram, projected from an unknown source. The image flickered to life, revealing a tall, shadowed figure in black armor, its body riddled with sleek cybernetic enhancements. Its voice was metallic, distorted. "Your time is over, Council," it said. Kaether's eyes widened in horror. "No. It can't be." Zyrax hissed, his claws flexing. "Varzan." Reynolds heard the name over comms. "Who the hell is Varzan?" Cole's voice came through, grim and sharp. "A warlord. A ghost. He was exiled decades ago for trying to overthrow the council. He vanished. Everyone assumed he was dead." "Clearly, they assumed wrong," Reynolds muttered. The hologram of Varzan turned its piercing red gaze toward the viewing platform. "You have grown complacent," it sneered. "You sit in your floating towers while the galaxy rots. I offered you a future. You exiled me instead." The cybernetic pit-born on the battlefield stopped moving, as if awaiting orders. Varzan's hologram continued. "No more politics. No more weakness. The time of the council is over. The time of the strong has come." And then, to everyone's horror, dozens of new red blips appeared on Novak's scanner. More cybernetic troops. An entire invasion force was waiting just outside the arena. The gauntlet had never been about the SEALs. It had been the opening move in a full-scale coup. Fight or die. Reynolds took immediate control. "We need to get the hell out of this arena, now." But the exits had already sealed shut. "We're trapped," Diaz cursed. Reynolds' mind worked fast. They had no weapons strong enough to take out an entire invasion force. The council was vulnerable. The arena was turning into a kill box. Unless... Reynolds activated his comms. "Novak, can you hijack the gauntlet's environmental controls?" Novak's fingers flew over his device. "I can try. What's the plan?" Reynolds glanced at the volatile, molten pools scattered around the battlefield. "We're gonna turn this place into a bomb." Novak grinned. "Now you're talking." Up in the council chamber, Varzan's hologram smirked. "Say goodbye to your empire." And then, with a sudden, violent surge, the arena exploded. The turning point. The explosion wasn't an accident. It was a tactical strike. Reynolds and his team had used the gauntlet's unstable environment to trigger a massive chain reaction. The blast obliterated half of Varzan's forces and sent the remaining cybernetic pit-born into disarray. In the chaos, the SEALs made their move. They fought their way toward the exit as Novak hacked into the security locks, overriding the system just long enough to force open the doors. Meanwhile, in the council chamber, Varzan's hologram flickered in anger. "This isn't over," he snarled. Cole stepped forward, his voice ice-cold. "You made one mistake, Varzan." The warlord tilted his head. "Oh?" Cole's eyes burned. "You underestimated humans." The hologram vanished, and with it, the remnants of Varzan's control over the gauntlet. The SEALs emerged from the wreckage, battered but alive. And for the first time in history, the Galactic Council looked at them not with amusement, but with respect. Humanity had not only survived the gauntlet. They had won. And war was coming. The gauntlet was in ruins. Smoke curled from the wreckage, fire smoldering amid the shattered arena. The once mighty battleground, designed to humiliate and break Earth's warriors, now lay in shambles, an unintentional graveyard for Varzan's cybernetic forces. Commander Reynolds stood at the edge of the carnage, plasma blade still humming in his grip. His SEALs were battered, blooded, and low on ammunition, but they were alive. Novak, leaning against a crumbled wall, exhaled a shaky breath. Well, that escalated quickly. Mason wiped soot from his sniper scope. "You think?" From above, the Galactic Council's floating platforms descended, their dignitaries visibly shaken. Empress Kaether, who had once mocked humanity's strength, now regarded Reynolds and his team with an expression he hadn't seen before. Respect. Zyrax, his reptilian features grim, turned to General Cole. "Your warriors are formidable." Cole smirked, arms crossed. "Told you." But before anyone could claim victory, an emergency alarm blared across the station. Varzan's invasion force had arrived. A massive fleet of dark, angular warships emerged from hyperspace, blotting out the stars. Their hulls gleamed with cybernetic plating, red lights pulsing along their spines. The warlord hadn't given up. He was here to finish what he started. Reynolds cursed under his breath. "We don't have time for speeches. We need a ship. Now." Kaether, snapping out of her shock, motioned to a council officer. "Prepare the Exodus fleet. All defense systems online." Zyrax turned to the humans. "You fought well, but this is now beyond you." Cole stepped forward. Like hell it is. He gestured to the seals. You saw what they just did. You think we're just going to sit back now? Kaether hesitated, then gave a slow nod. Then fight with us. Reynolds grinned. That's the first thing you've said that I actually like. The final battle. The Valkyrie launched from the station, its sleek frame cutting through the chaos. The SEALs, now seated in the warship's command deck, prepared for the fight of their lives. Novak, get me a scan of that fleet, Reynolds ordered. Novak's fingers flew over the console. Their command ship is the biggest one in the center. If we take that out, we cut the head off the snake. Mason adjusted his rifle. Always aim for the head. Diaz grinned. I've got enough explosives to make that happen. The battle erupted in full force. Council warships clashed with Vazan's cybernetic fleet, energy beams ripping through the void. The Valkyrie weaved through the chaos, dodging debris and enemy fire. Inside the enemy flagship, Vazan watched from his command throne, his cybernetic eye glowing with rage. They still resist, he growled. One of his lieutenants, a hulking brute with mechanical arms, stepped forward. Then we crush them. Vazan bared his metallic teeth. No. We erase them. He pressed a control panel on his throne. Below, hidden beneath his flagship, a massive superweapon hummed to life, an energy cannon capable of vaporizing entire planets. Novak's console blared an alarm. Commander, they're charging something big. Reynolds frowned. Define big. Novak paled. Death ray big. Cole, watching from the council's war room, slammed his hand on the table. We have to stop that weapon. Kaether turned to her fleet commanders. All fire on the flagship. But Vazan's ship had shields far stronger than expected. The council's weapons barely scratched it. Mason tightened his jaw. We need to get inside that ship. Reynolds made the call. Prepare for a boarding action. Inside the lion's den. The Valkyrie latched onto the enemy flagship, cutting through its hull. The SEALs stormed inside, weapons at the ready. The corridors were dark, lined with pulsating red lights. Cybernetic guards surged forward, blocking their path. Reynolds led the charge. Plasma blade met steel, bullets met armor, and the SEALs carved a bloody path through the ship. Novak hacked into the central control panel. I can shut down the superweapon, but I need time. Then we buy you some, Reynolds said. Diaz set explosives along the ship's main power conduits. Mason picked off approaching enemies with precise headshots. Cole took point, taking down enemies in brutal hand-to-hand combat. Vazan watched their progress through the ship's monitors. His rage turned to something colder. Admiration. He activated his personal elevator, descending to meet them himself. The doors at the end of the corridor hissed open. Vazan stepped through. 7 feet tall, cybernetic enhancements gleaming, his presence alone was suffocating. I see now, he said, voice cold. Humans are not weak. He ignited his plasma claws. But you are still prey. Reynolds stepped forward, gripping his own blade. Then let's see who bleeds first. The final duel. Vazan attacked like a storm, his strikes fast and brutal. Reynolds barely dodged the first swipe, countering with a slash that glanced off the warlord's armored plating. The SEALs tried to intervene, but Vazan was too fast, too strong. He tossed Mason aside, knocked Diaz to the floor, and deflected a shot from Novak with his bare hand. This was a warrior unlike any they had faced. But Reynolds wasn't fighting alone. Diaz, bleeding but grinning, held up a detonator. Hey, ugly, he called. Vazan turned, just as Diaz triggered the explosives. The ship shook as the charges detonated, power surging wildly. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Reynolds seized the moment. He lunged, driving his plasma blade straight into Vazan's chest. The warlord gasped, his cybernetic eye flickering. Reynolds leaned in. You underestimated humans. With a final, brutal twist, he wrenched the blade free. Vazan staggered back. His systems failed. And then, he fell. The aftermath. With Vazan dead, Novak finished his hack. The superweapon's power core overloaded, and the SEALs barely escaped as the enemy flagship imploded in a fiery burst. Vazan's fleet, leaderless and in disarray, was no match for the combined forces of the Council and Earth. One by one, their ships fell. The battle was over. Humanity had proven itself not just as warriors, but as survivors. In the council chambers, Kaether stood before the remaining dignitaries. Earth has earned its place, she declared. Let no one question their strength again. Reynolds and his SEALs stood beside General Cole. "We're not just here to fight," Reynolds said. "We're here to make sure no one tries this again." Kaether nodded. "Then welcome, humans, to the real war." Because Vazun had been just one enemy, and the galaxy was full of threats. But now, the SEALs were ready.